African countries have been independent for over half a century, but I think a lot of countries are still quite comfortable when they are dealing with the West. So compared to those countries, what's different from of China in that aspect?
I think there is a lot of comfort of African countries to deal with China because there is a common history. There is a lot of similarities in the histories and the type of challenges that those countries. When you look at, when I talk to officials in China and I talked about the issues that African countries are facing today, they remind me that this is issues that China will be dealing with recently. So the ability of China to absorb the international experience and adapt it to their own reality is something also that African countries are doing right now. And I think that the tendency and the trend is to stop focusing on one source of knowledge, one experience, but to be very pragmatic like China has been doing, learning from various parts of the world and try to have a synthesis which is an African synthesis. Because I do believe that there is not a model from one country that Africa will replicate, but the future is a model that is an African model based on the learning of experience from different parts of the world.
Just unfortunately, some of the Chinese companies, when they are doing business in Africa, sometimes they show their bad behaviors and sometimes over competing with others with low prices and sometimes not honoring their contracts. Because we heard some complaints from the local people there. Do you think some people argue that China, because China has its own defects in its economic structure, its growth model, and others. Do you think that those people are arguing that China could become a better investor only when its own home country becomes fully normalized? I want to hear your comment on that opinion.
What I can say is that the World Bank can bring something. Part of the collaboration of the World Bank with China and trying to bring China's investors in an environment that we are used to, is to start also bringing, make some of the Chinese companies which are not very familiar with the international rules of bidding, the international rule of competition, to make them much more familiar with those rules by working in collaboration with us and telling them, these are environmental safeguards which are important, these are social safeguards which are important, these are the principle of international bidding in our contract, and the more they adjust to that, the more it will be useful for them also to bring back that experience in China, which is other. So I think it's a loop in the learning, and I think we will be also able to adjust our processes so that maybe sometimes we are a bit too cumbersome and we try to learn to do things faster to be able, and again, in fine, to deliver better service to the people of Africa, because all this conversation is not about China, it's not about the World Bank, it's about the people of Africa.
Mm-hmm. For smaller investors from China, private ones and smaller businesses, when they go to Africa, how to encourage them to be more involved in the local economy, to have more people to do the business there instead of, only importing the products and sell there by themselves?
Yeah, it's true that it will be learning by doing. It will be learning by doing. Any country will start investing in another country will come with what they are used to and how they used to do it. It's a Chinese, it's American, it's a Swedish, everybody comes with his use and habits. And I think the question is to start, creating an environment where they don't need to do that. And that's what I was mentioning earlier, that investing in vocational training is very important, because maybe one of the elements of uncertainty that a small-scale company in China will be facing is that they're going in an environment that they don't know enough, and they want to make sure maybe that they will be recreating in that country an environment which is safer, that they control better. So this is a way of reducing the level of uncertainty when you are a small investor. So now the condition is, if you can create an environment where they will find workers from an African country with the same type of training, the same skill, who understand really the processes, the way it's done, they'll be much more comfortable in bringing those people in their company and use them. So it's a matter of really working on your 2 feet, using the two side to talk, to educate to those investors about the reality of your country, but at the same time to provide them with the conditions, the objective conditions, which creates that level of uncertainty when they come to a country which is a foreign country.